Hi, how are you? It's so good to see you, Darla. I'm so happy to have you here today and everybody in our audience. This Facebook Live will last about 30 to 40 minutes, and we're going to talk about transformational retreats for stress relief. Our special guest is an American business coach, author, and speaker. If you want to find out more about our next Facebook Live, I'm going to leave you the link so you can sign up. Most of them are in Spanish, and my emails are in Spanish, but some of them are also in English. I want to remind you that my company, Excede tu Potencial, has the purpose of helping companies refocus positively their levels of stress so they can improve productivity, relationships, and results. And as a transformational coach, I also help successful professionals to release their inner mental jail built throughout life so they can find balance and fulfillment, the one they're looking for. So, I want to introduce you today to our special guest, Darla LeDoux. She's a business coach, author, speaker, and the founder of Source and the creator of Source Experience. In business since 2009, Darla has generated millions of dollars in revenue and helped thousands of entrepreneurs maximize their profits with businesses based on freedom, authenticity, and connection. Darla believes that intimate retreats have the power to heal and transform well beyond one on one work or information alone, and that these experiences are precisely what's needed in the world today. After having her own transformative experience while on retreat, Darla realized the immense power of this approach. Her own highly sought after source retreats continue to make an impact on clients worldwide. So, and I'm happy to say that she's also my mentoring coach, and I'm so excited to have you here today, Darla. Please, if you want to welcome our audience and say some words to them.
Hi, thank you so much, Stephanie, for having me. And I'm so honored to be here. I'm really excited about this conversation, specifically because we can merge your expertise about anxiety and stress with my expertise on retreats. And I think it's going to be a really interesting conversation. It's one I've never had before, and I'm really excited about it.
Exactly. Yeah, me too. Me too. I think there's so much. I mean, the time we have is not enough. We could talk about this for hours and hours, but I want to, give our audience the best, not only our energy, but the best idea so they can really decide if this is a path for them. And as
Yes.
we both believe, this is an amazing path to go into. So
Yes.
I wanna ask our audience, how is it? Are you hearing us well? Is the sound okay? And as well, if you wanna tell us from where are you listening, which country, which part of the world? I'm always happy to see people connecting from different countries. And now that it's in English, we have like more variety of people. Normally,
Yes.
we were Spanish speakers, but since now it's in English, we might have people from Pakistan, from the States, from Europe. So, and it's still a good time from people that are 8 hours ahead still, if they're a little bit owls. So if you want to share with us, and before we start, Darla, I want to ask the audience, like we are going to talk about retreats and how they transform lives. So what can you tell us, and this is to the audience, about what do you know about retreats? Have you participated of any? What kind of retreat was it? Because there are different types of retreats. There's some religious, some more for the body, for the mind, for meditation, are different kinds of retreats. So I would like to know, and I would like the audience to tell us what type of retreats you've been into, if you want to share with us. So, meanwhile, Darla, I want to ask you, what is a transformational retreat and how to know if I'm ready for one?
Yes. So, a transformational retreat, there's a lot of retreats. Not all retreats are transformational, and not all transformations happen on retreat. So, the way that I define transformation is it's creating this permanent shift in how you interact with the world. So, because of a new awareness or a shift in energy, which we may talk more about, we no longer view the world in the same way, and therefore how we show up and interact with the world is different. So, I know we talked a little bit, Stephanie, about different types of retreats. There's yoga retreats, there are spiritual retreats, and there's this distinction of transformational retreat. And some yoga retreats would fit the description, some spiritual retreats would fit the description. Um, we're talking about on retreat, the intention is that you see something, you create a new awareness that you never saw before, that once you see it, it totally changes how you interact with the world. So there's a specific design and a specific intention for how someone would hold space for people coming to a retreat that's transformational. So, and Stephanie, have you, I know obviously you've been on retreat with me. I know, you love retreats. You have your own. Um, does that fit with how you've experienced a transformational retreat?
Definitely. For me, it's been that I move things or I realize I have these aha moments of things that normally are there, but you don't see them.
Yes, exactly.
And it makes that shift not only of perspective, but of how to approach the situation. It's like, okay, I have this new perspective. What do I want to do with it? I can decide not to do anything, and that's a decision as well. But if I don't do anything, what will this bring me in
Yeah,
of not doing or of doing or of just being?
right.
Sometimes it's just being that actually is the decision.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. And I know for me, before I went to my first retreat, that was very transformational for me and like kind of started me down this path. I had only been to corporate trainings, and I know you and I have the shared experience of working at Procter and Gamble in different parts of the world. And I had only been to corporate training, which was very, very different,
Yeah.
right, than a transformational experience. There's a different perspective because we're coming in looking for, okay, what is it that we're not seeing that once we see it, everything opens up. So instead of, say, in a training, I'm going to give you all this information and you might write a lot of notes and maybe we do some practice like with the person next to you, or I remember doing team building and that kind of thing.
Hmm.
But it's all in the head, right? It's an intellectual process that we're writing down and remembering. Even going to like emotional intelligence training, I remember it being very intellectual
Yeah.
process.
Yeah.
Whereas the transformation, we're looking at what is the energy, right? What is it that you're bringing as a filter that affects how you show up energetically in the world, and how can we bring awareness to this so when we remove it, now you have more energy available to interact with people. It's like you're a totally different being
Hmm.
interacting with people. And the reason retreats are so powerful for this is when you get the opportunity to be with a group of people in the moment on retreat and experience that different energy, right? With people,
Yeah.
not
Because it's
not with your spouse, not
it's
with
your
your
energy with
mom.
everybody's energy.
Exactly, exactly. And especially when you're in a group and we're going to talk about like how do we get the courage to do this? How do we know it's safe? All of that. Because when you're in a group though with strangers, they don't have any frame of reference for who you should be, who you used to be. They don't expect you to be the nice one or the helpful one or the smart one or the funny one. And so you get to be whatever energy you've unleashed and get a real experience of that in life. So it's really, really exciting when you have a great facilitator who can help guide that process.
Exactly. Yeah, and
And
I'm thinking about that. It's very hard to create that ambience, that environment when you're doing a corporate training, even though if you want to do a transformational thing with corporate, because people already have judgment about the
yeah,
others, about themselves. and they always are in a certain energy
Yeah, this
because
is how I am at work, right? This is how I look professional or whatever. Yeah.
so it's more complicated. I would say it's rather a challenge to do a transformational retreat with people from the same working group.
Well, it is and it isn't. It really depends on the facilitator. So we're going to talk more about how do you discern and where to go really to find a great retreat because it's really about the vulnerability
Hmm.
and the safety that the leader brings into the room.
Exactly.
And so, with the right facilitator, even a team that's been working together forever and maybe has judgments or patterns or, this is how we interact, you can break that up. But it is definitely much easier to go into a group of strangers and do the work for yourself.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
And Stephanie, you asked, you said, how would people know if they're ready for this?
Hmm.
And if you're tuning into this conversation, it might be a clue that you're ready. But really, this has to do with a couple things. Do you have a desire in your life that's greater than your fear of change? That's greater than your commitment to having things be the way they are? Or do you have a discomfort that's greater than the fear of change? Right? So it's almost like a math equation in a way, like the gap between what you desire and your current discomfort. If that's great enough, then you're really going to be willing to show up and see. I go like this all the time, like this thing that's hidden from your view, right? It's like it's right there. It's like if I could just see it, I would be free, right? But we don't want to see it because if we do, we need to change our behavior. And so we have a certain commitment to keeping this hidden because then we get to keep behaving the same. And at some level, what we're getting from our current behavior and energy pattern is working,
Hmm.
right? Even if there's discomfort, even if I wish I made more money, I wish I had more freedom, I wish I had the perfect spouse, at some level, what we're doing is working. And so we kind of want to keep this hidden. So if you're at a point where the pain is greater than the fear of whatever you might learn about yourself, or your desire for something else is greater than that fear,
Hmm.
then put yourself in a space where you can reveal this thing that's hidden from your view. Because once you see it, you can't unsee it. And it really, even if it's a little scary, like I've seen things like when I was in corporate, in my first retreats, it was like I could see how I was um, assuming I knew best and therefore disempowering the people on my team.
Hmm.
And that was hidden. And when I saw it, I felt sick because that was not my commitment. I was really committed to teamwork and having this great experience and loving people, and we all get to work together. And yet, when I really was honest with myself, I
Hmm.
was being a control freak and I assumed that I would do it better. And so everybody better just get out of my way.
Exactly.
And it was very disempowering, right? And it was sickening to see, yet it was so freeing because on the flip side of that, I also realized I don't have to do as much as I thought I did. And whoa, other people have amazing ideas. And this seems really simplistic, but this stuff is happening all the time
All the time.
in our work teams, in our families, where we're programmed, before the age of 7 to show up in a certain way. We train everybody that that's how we'll be. We don't realize we've done that, and then we feel victim to this situation we've created.
Exactly. Exactly. No, completely, completely. That's the way it works, or we are used to working, and that's when we realize that it isn't working anymore, that we start changing those beliefs and paradigms. But as you were saying, the fear, the pain needs to be much higher than the comfort zone. Otherwise, you don't move away from that, or you're not willing to transform or to change your
Yeah.
situation because it's a comfort zone at the end, right?
Yeah. And And, the more I've done this, I've led more than 70 retreats now. I don't judge it. It's not a bad thing to want to be in your comfort zone, but own it. Own it that, hey, this is comfortable right now. And even though it's painful, I'm going to own that this feels better than the risk.
Definitely. And stay away from being a victim, because if you're going to own it, you have to own it with everything, with pros and cons. At
Yeah,
the end, every decision we make
exactly.
has pros and cons, and it doesn't matter, but we need to own it and not continue blaming others, or getting stressed out, or saying things that at the end, okay, if you really don't want to be there, stop complaining and do something about it, right?
Yeah, we have a saying in our house. I'm just going to be a victim for a while now. Right? We say
That's
if
funny.
you're going to be a victim, be the best damn victim you can be, and just own it. Right? I'm just going to be victim right now. And as soon as you say that, you notice your energy starts to shift, and you're
Yeah.
not feeling that victimhood anymore.
Exactly. Or if you just want to, say things as a victim, but you finish saying them and then you're like, I'm over. I'm done. I'm not a victim
Exactly.
anymore. I let myself be a victim for a while.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. And I want to ask our audience if you have been on a transformational retreat, and
Yeah.
what was your experience. I would love to hear what our audience has to say about that. And while they answer us, I want to ask you, Darla, why would people like to transform their lives? I mean, we were talking about the fact of being in pain, or that the motivation is greater than so big or so amazing that you're moving forward to it. But is there something else to take into account here?
Yeah. Well, the first thing that popped to mind when you were asking people what's been their experience on retreat, I immediately flashed to one of the retreats I went on that kind of led me in this direction. And there was a group experience, and this was a very transformational context, right? So it's totally different. It's not bad if you're just learning things, but it was very much about, seeing how are you being in your life. And so they put us in teams, and we had, I don't even remember the details, but we had a collective assignment. And I remember this is how I realized how I was showing up in my team. I remember like just wanting to do it myself. Like these people were so slow, and like someone wasn't getting it and someone else was off at lunch and wanted to make a phone call, and we had to do this thing. And it was just like, I just want to do it myself. But you couldn't, like the way it was set up, it was impossible to do it yourself. And I remember realizing, like, I got to watch it unfold and how our team worked, that how I was affected everyone. Like, I had felt like a victim, like I couldn't influence people to do what they were supposed
Needed
to
to do.
do to get the assignment done. And I couldn't do it myself. And I felt like I had no influence.
Mhm.
And then I thought, well, okay, there has to be a way to win this game.
Mind and the ego.
There has to be a way. Well, and so I said, well, if there were a way, if I really could influence, what would that be like? And I started playing with that idea of, if I really had influence, what would that look like? Like if my energy and how I'm showing up could change everything about this, what would that be like? And I didn't like immediately get it right, but I started trying different things, shifting within myself. What if I show up like this? What if and I really could watch people change before my eyes based on me letting go of my victim story or my control story, right? And so I got the experience of it. And this is why the context of retreats is so valuable, because you can get the experience of it. Like someone could have told me that, hey, how you show up influences everything.
But it
And it
doesn't.
would have just been like, okay, I get that. Next. But really experiencing it and having that time and space to interact with other people, understanding that every single person on that retreat is a mirror or a reflection of yourself or someone in your life.
Definitely. Definitely. Yeah. And it can be in your team, it can be people, someone that reports to you, your boss, a colleague, in your
Yeah.
family, a brother, a sister, a son, a daughter, a partner, doesn't matter.
Yeah. And so when I'm thinking you said, why would people want to transform? Because everything transforms when we transform. See, we think we're like victim. I mean, most of us. So I use a tool called the Energy Leadership Index assessment, which measures our energy or how we're thinking on 7 levels. And so of the 7, the average is 2.4.
It's very
So
low.
most people are in victim or they're in conflict with life.
Hmm.
And or we're somehow making excuses for ourselves or for people in life. That's actually level 3. That's a higher level. Um, and when we can transform that, we can interact with life in a whole different way, and people show up totally different. So when I was coming from a place of true empowerment, of love, energy, of really looking for what was right about my team and how creative they were totally different. And I see this happen, my mom is not the same human that she was when I started my transformational journey. Did she change or did I just shift my view, right? So we have so much power to actually shape our lives, to co-create with the universe, and to have amazing and miraculous things happen when we're really willing to continue to transform our patterns. I've had everything from money fall in my lap that I could have never, ever, ever controlled to finding my life partner, to growing my business where I could work from home before COVID happened,
Hmm.
um, and like big shifts very, very quickly because I got out of my own way. Just like on that retreat where I looked at the group and I thought, well, could I have an influence? Like, am I actually connected? Like, does my energy influence? And over and over again in my life, I see that happens.
Yeah, it happens all the time. And yeah, depending on our energy and the way we show up, it's as well the results we get from conversations, from what we're doing, from how we are being, because sometimes as well we are too tough on ourselves. So that reflects outside as well, right?
Totally. Totally. I've had that one. Yes. And I'm curious because we're talking about why transform. And I know your expertise is in stress and anxiety. And so I want to ask you that because I think I love the specific application you have when people are dealing with anxiety, which is so rampant in our culture.
It is, and unfortunately, we've we have a judgment about anxiety that it's something negative as well as stress, but actually both are could be very very positive in our lives. The thing is, as I call it, we are emotional analphabets. So
Mhm.
the problem with that is we don't even know what we're really feeling, and we call everything stress, anxiety. I'm
Mm.
angry, I'm sad, I'm depressed. But and words are very powerful, but unfortunately, we don't really know. And sometimes we say I'm angry, but in reality, what I am is I'm using anger to cover up for fear, for sadness, for something else. And that happens as well with anxiety. Maybe what I'm feeling is fear, or maybe I'm sad and I don't even know what I'm feeling. But normally, what anxiety does is the message anxiety. All every emotion has a message, and the message anxiety has in your life is that it's about the future, that you are ready to move to the future. But obviously, since the future is uncertain, it kind of like it can be scary, and that's when either anxiety helps you to move forward because you want to move forward to that different future, or it paralyzes you
Yeah.
because you're afraid of uncertainty, or if what if I'm taking the wrong decision, or what if I fail, or what if I succeed, because succeeding as well can
Yeah.
be fearful.
Yes.
So yeah, the thing is here is to understand, and how anxiety shows up for each person is different. You feel the emotion in a certain part in your body. So for example, for you, anxiety, you might feel it in your head, and when you ask me, I feel it in my chest, and somebody else feels it in the back. So as well, it's very different for each of us, and a situation that might cause me anxiety might not cause you anxiety. So
Yeah.
as well, it's very different, and that's very important for each of us to know ourselves and understand and really connect and listen to our body, and put, I say in
Yeah.
Spanish, a name and a last name to the emotion, to
Yes.
really name the emotion right, like name and last name.
Mhm.
I mean, the emotion is just one, but, or many. You can be
Yeah.
feeling many emotions at the same time, but name them exactly. And where are you feeling them? I'm feeling
Yeah.
anxiety in my stomach, like a deep hole or a big hole or whatever. But if you
I
start
would, so I would say to tie what you're saying about anxiety to this idea of transformation and specifically retreats, it's like if anxiety is about the future, there's some feeling about this lack of control for the future. So, and I know your whole thing is really understanding emotions and why they're such a gift, right?
exactly.
So if we have this uncertain feeling about the future, there's some sense of inadequacy, I would say, that could manifest as fear or,
Mhm.
excitement or a lot of different things that isn't actually related to who we are right now.
Exactly.
It's actually related to some message we got way in the past, possibly even before we were conscious, which would be before age 7,
Hmm.
about ourselves, about who we can be and who we can't be. And whatever this thing is in the future that we're thinking about requires us to be someone different than that old story or that old paradigm. And even though we might be really excited about it, I know the things that make me anxious are usually things I'm so freaking excited about that it's like, oh, I don't want to screw that up, right?
Exactly. Exactly.
Um, so it can be really positive emotion, but there's that some part of us, I point to my stomach because mine shows up there. There's some part of us that thinks I can't, I'm going to fail. I can't do this. There's some, or I'm going to upset someone or whatever it is, it's going against who you've been being in the past. Right. So
Hmm.
what that really means is this thing that's hidden from your view is causing the anxiety. What I'm hearing you say, it's different for everyone, right? So when we go on retreat, a transformational retreat, even if the curriculum, let's say, because I have curriculum, it's light curriculum on my retreats, it's mostly experience, but the curriculum is designed so that each person sees this that's hidden. And every single person's can be totally different, but the same experience can help reveal it. And I say a lot, we're always getting what we're committed to,
Hmm.
or who you're being anywhere is who you're being everywhere. And
Exactly.
so, this idea, however we show up on retreat, even if it's with random people, it's a totally different situation. Our mind might think, oh, yeah, has nothing to do with my job. However, we interact with what the exercises are, the experiences on retreat is going to show us this. It's like, okay, I'm gonna try to take over,
Hmm.
but if it doesn't work, I'm gonna put my hands up and, you know,
Yeah. Like
be
happy,
victim. Yeah.
happy.
And like, okay, where am I doing that in life? And it never fails to be revealing.
Yeah.
But mostly we don't take that, if we don't understand that we have a filter, we're viewing everything through it, it's affecting how we're showing up. And until we see it and move it, we're trapped by it. No matter where we go, we're trapped by it. If we're not even thinking in that way, right? If you look around at the world and we're not thinking like, well, what is the filter that we have that we're co-creating this situation, then things just keep being the same over and over and over again. We don't create real change. We might have a new system or a new planner or a new diet, outline or whatever, but we're not going to really create the change. It's going to be temporary because this is going to be too strong.
Exactly. Exactly. Until we really work into it and really do something about it, because
Yeah.
we're staying in our comfort zone at the
Yeah.
end.
And if we can see it and we can be with it and stay present with it, we can transform it. It literally takes a whole different energetic shape and we can actually use it. And I'm guessing this is what you talk about with your anxiety work. It's like we can actually use that for good. There's a lot of energy pent up in these things that we're fearing or resisting. And when we free it, it's like, whoo, all of a sudden, I'm alert and I'm excited and I'm not, overwhelmed
I'm
by
not overwhelmed or paralyzed anymore.
it. Yeah.
Hmm. Exactly. And yeah, and for those of you who started listening a little bit later, we're talking today about transformational retreats for stress relief with Darla LeDoux, an American business coach, author, and speaker. If you want to find out more about our trainings and programs online, you can contact me and I'll leave you my email on the chat box. And I want to ask the audience, why would you go to a retreat? If you can tell us a little bit about that. And meanwhile, Darla, I want to ask you, is it safe to go on a transformational retreat for someone who is experiencing a lot of fear or anxiety?
Hmm. Yeah, it's such a great question. So, is it safe? I mean, so it really depends. We got to circle back to the first question, which is how do I know if I'm ready?
Hmm.
And it really depends on this gap between what it is you want and where you are now and how committed you are to closing that gap. Because if you really are committed, um, you'll be able to see what's been keeping you in this pattern of stress and anxiety. If there's some part of you, well, we all have some part of us that would rather stay in our comfort zone, right? Even if our comfort zone is painful. And I've been in some painful comfort zones. I was in a toxic relationship and it was like, well, this is what I know. This is how I've watched people behave. Like, this is comfortable, even though it was extremely uncomfortable. So, there's no judgment about it might feel better to stay where you are. But if you know you're committed to change, you want to really tune in. And, we have waivers for our retreats. We are not, providing medical care. We're not providing, legal advice. We're not providing any kind of, psychotherapy or anything like that. So if you, have concern, talk to your therapist and find out if they feel that you're ready to go on retreat. If you're resonating with this idea that the thing that's creating my anxiety or my stress has to do with some belief that's hidden from our view, and it's causing me to behave in a certain way that's maybe not even real for me anymore. It was real, but it's not real for me anymore. Just like it's not real for me anymore that if I don't do it, it's not going to be done right. Right? Like that was real for me. Growing up, looking around at everybody in my family, I thought I'm the one. Like I'm the only, sane person here to be totally honest, right? I'm the only sane person here, so I have to be the one. But it wasn't real. And so if you have a sense that the things that are causing you anxiety are just old belief patterns that aren't real anymore, but you just don't know how to let it go, right? Because maybe you haven't named it, like you said, a first and last name. You haven't named it properly. And so you don't know how to let it go. And you're not alone. I mean, I've been leading transformational retreats for more than 10 years now. I have I was first trained as a coach 20 years ago in corporate. So I've been doing this a long time. I still go on retreat. I still have a coach who can help me see what's hidden from my view, because as we grow, we might pick back up something that keeps us in our comfort zone, or we create a new one because,
Exactly.
hey, it's safe and cozy here. So we always want to be continuing to do this work. So if you're resonating with that idea, right, that possibly the things that feel insurmountable, the things that feel so out of control, I couldn't possibly, but yet I have to do them, right? Maybe it's your job, maybe you're a parent and that feels crazy and out of control. I know you can relate to that sometimes.
Yeah.
Um, and so you can't just step away from it, but you have this knowing, this innate sense that it's possible to shift it, then it would be safe for you. If you feel like, I don't think I can let this go, I have a real medical issue that is unsolvable, if you feel like you prefer, and this is going to sound, for those of you who lead transformation, you'll get this. If you prefer your story, if you prefer to make other people wrong and be right, don't go, because you're just remember, everything is coming through a filter. So your whole experience will be coming through the filter of you're wrong, I'm right, or whatever story your ego wants to make up to keep you safe. So, and again, no judgment, but notice that if you're really committed to being right and staying the same, it's going to be painful because you'll just keep recreating that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And, Stephanie, we had talked when we were talking about this conversation about like, how do you know if it's safe? Specifically, do I go with someone on retreat? And because that's the other piece, right? So one piece is you and your responsibility for your own life as a participant. And the other piece is choosing a skilled leader and really someone that you resonate with, their philosophy and their approach. And you want to feel safe, and you also want to feel challenged, because if it's just safe, like all love and light, and we don't confront and look at this stuff, we won't really transform. It might be nice, it might be lovely and relaxing, but you won't really transform. So you want to vet people. And, if people are here watching this, I'm sure they've vetted you, Stephanie, and, definitely go on retreat with Stephanie. She is trained. She has done the work. She's done her own transformation, and she can really hold this firm and loving space for your transformation. But if you're thinking about going, get some kind of experience with the host. It could be, maybe they have a podcast that you resonate with. Maybe you can book a coaching call, like a one-on-one individual consultation where you can experience how they are with you. Take a course. So one of the things I teach the retreat leaders I train is to develop some kind of, I call it a gateway, where people can get to know you before they make the decision to go on retreat. So you have this sense of Stephanie's energy, and how does she talk to people, and how does she interact, and what questions does she ask, and do I feel safe with her, and will she challenge me, right? It's like that interesting tension. We need both of those things. Yeah. And so ideally, if you can listen in on a podcast where they're coaching people live, or you can take a course that includes some live coaching. They don't have to actually coach you, right? So if I watch Stephanie coach someone else, and I can get a sense from that interaction of how that would be for me, or how I would feel going on retreat. So do your due diligence and really understand that philosophy. Because I've had people who have had their retreat full, and then they started, being a little challenging with helping people see this. And the participants were like, I don't want to know that. And it was, it was not fun for them. Or people going and expecting something to be transformational, but it was not. It was, relaxing and
Mm-hmm.
yeah, but it was not transformational. There's to really see what's hidden from our view, we need to be challenged. And it can be so loving. It doesn't have to be harsh. I've been to those like harsh,
Me too.
can be
Me
so
too.
loving, but we need to be challenged. So give yourself an experience with that leader so you can know that you'll resonate. And the other thing is to really engage in your own transformation, like read books on transformation. Stephanie, I know I gave you a link where I have an audio called The Sourced Experience, which is all about how transformation shows up in people's lives. So you can go grab that audio. It's like 75 minutes and you can learn more about transformation. And lots of people write about it. There's lots of resources about like how does the ego work, right? How I speak about it in terms of energy. What's it look like when we're in sourced energy, which is your true aligned purpose? And what does it look like when you're in default energy, which is that stagnant old way of being that usually stresses us out? So different people have different ways of speaking about transformation, but learn about it so that when you're evaluating your retreat, you can check the language and you can say, oh yeah, that resonates for me.
Mm-hmm.
Right? A really common thing to look for if they talk about beliefs, right? Limiting beliefs is another way people talk about it, or ego patterns or stuck energy. Like you want to look and be a little bit educated so that you can choose the right retreat.
Definitely. Yeah, because not every retreat is for everybody, and not every retreat leader resonates with everybody. And yeah, you
Exactly.
have to find the one that actually makes sense to you, to the way you see life, the way you act, the way you want to transform. Because at the end, they're different paths, and none is wrong or right. It's just different. And it's what makes more sense to each of us.
Yes. And, I just would add there's so many different paths and like take one because we can also sit and that this can be an ego pattern to sit and wait and analyze and wait for the perfect opportunity. Or every single transformational retreat I have been on has required something from me that I was not prepared for, whether it was more money than I
Mhm.
thought I would have to invest, whether it was rescheduling. I've had to reschedule my own event in order to attend something that I knew was going to change my life. Um, it's going to require something of you. Don't just sit and wait like for the circumstances to magically line up. Because if your transformation requires you, let's say, to be bold and do things differently, then signing up for the retreat is going to require you to be bold and do things differently. I've had people reschedule like grandma's 100th birthday party to come on retreat. Like whatever it is, and that's not going to be everybody's case. That was, and I speak about being sourced. That was a personal curriculum for her from spirit, like for her to choose herself over all of the family obligations that had been her pattern.
Wow.
Right? That was her pattern. It doesn't
And
happen for
that's a very
everybody.
tough, yeah, and that's a very tough call to make,
Yes,
because if you're used to that, to live for the people, then to take a decision for yourself, and I see a lot of people that are there, it's practically impossible. So it's a very big challenge for people.
yes. And our logical mind would say, well, I can't do that. But then the next date is going to conflict with someone else's birthday or a track
Or
meet
something.
or soccer or football game, right? Um, so it's always the perfect curriculum, but it will require something of you that is probably inconvenient.
Yeah, and it's aligned with what you need to transform and see in your life at that precise moment, because
Exactly.
nothing happened out of coincidence. Everything has a purpose, and
Exactly.
everything is perfectly aligned to what you need to learn, what you need to do, what you need to transform, and what you're ready to see. Actually, there's a saying um, in Spanish about that. Well, it's actually a Chinese saying that the teacher, no, The teacher appears when the student is ready,
Yes.
like that.
Yes. Yeah. And then it may not be convenient. They may be around the world. And, right? You've traveled to various places for your work and your training,
Yeah.
and your transformation. It's not always convenient. Sometimes the lesson inherent is, oh, everything's smooth and it works out beautifully. But we can make the mistake of thinking if there's some resistance, that means it's not meant to be. I don't know if you've ever heard people say that. Oh, it's obviously not meant to be.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah. No, I even
sometimes
said
that's
that.
true.
Even said that.
That can be true sometimes. Like, oh, okay, I guess I'm not meant to be there because my commitment is elsewhere. But a lot of times it's really an invitation to relook at what is our commitment? Like, what do we really desire? Where are we now? And which choice is actually going to take us to what we desire versus just being in the habit, right? Or the pattern of what everybody else expects. And
Uh-huh.
do you find this, Stephanie? For me, I find um, a lot of the people I work with, especially women, that's a big theme is like everybody else's needs come first and then I'll try to make mine work. And
And it never happens.
yeah, it's impossible, especially to run a business with that mentality.
No, you can't. You
Yeah,
can't. Because you will have a checklist, and the last things in the on the checklist will be everything related to your business, yourself, and everything that's related to you.
exactly.
So if you're in that place, then running a business is not necessarily what you need to do,
Yeah.
or maybe that is.
You've got to transform it or don't set yourself a goal that's not achievable, that's not aligned with your real commitment.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
that's the whole point of transformation, right? It's like having our goals and our visions be aligned with our true commitment, as opposed to thinking we should want something else or we should be someone else or do something else.
Hmm. No, and it's completely fair if my commitment and my mission and vision of life is to be there for other people, for my family. It's completely fair.
Totally.
And it's a good I mean, it's a decision, but to be, as you were saying earlier, to own it and say, okay, I'm going to be there
Yeah.
and that's it. And anything else, it's out of the question, and it's perfect, but own it and don't complain about it, because if you're complaining, it means you don't really own it and you don't really want that.
Yeah. Yeah. And then that's good information, right? If you find yourself complaining, it's like, get curious about that.
Hmm.
Wow, I keep complaining about this same thing. That
Exactly, what's
that
wrong with
all
me?
that means is there's something hidden from my view about my commitments.
Hmm. I'm not seeing something there and I don't know
Yeah.
what it is. Yeah.
Yeah. And if
Yeah.
you are in the place where you're like, I know there's something there and I'm not seeing what it is, that's exactly when to go on retreat. And you can do this work with a coach one-on-one, but honestly, it's
Mhm.
so much more efficient on retreat. Now, obviously, we're in a strange time with travel and all of that. But if you can get, in a live or even a virtual retreat that's designed with this in mind, it's going to make all the difference.
Completely.
So
And
pay
I want to
attention because
share.
I think Stephanie will offer one coming up when she can. And so pay attention and hop on that
Yeah,
for sure.
yeah, yeah. In the coming weeks, maybe not now. We're preparing it, and it's going to be so much fun and so transformational that it will
Yes.
blow your mind. So be ready. I want to share with you a comment from Alexander Ayala. Thank you for being here, Alex. And it's great to have you. It says retreat provide focus,
Mm,
full dedication, full attention, and therefore, in my
yes.
experience, are much more effective.
Yes. Yes. And we talked about that briefly at the beginning, this idea of being in a room also with that's out of your normal environment. So that's what I hear when I hear the focus. It's like I'm not expected to do all the other things I normally do. And so I can be fully present to myself and my goal. Your family is not there on retreat unless that you're going on a family retreat. And even then you'd be out of your environment and out of your routine.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think I'm going to put on the chat box a special gift that Darla is giving our audience, so you can go in and see it. And as well, I want to hold on, there it is. I want to share with you guys Darla's contact information. If you want to get in contact with her, and for those of you who host retreats or would like to host retreats as well, her contact information so you can know more about her work. And it's been an amazing Facebook Live, Darla. I've had so much fun talking with you, and we're
Yes.
coming to an end. Obviously, as I was saying in the beginning, we could be talking here for hours and hours because
Yeah.
the topics we're discussing are what passionate both of us: transformation, anxiety and stress, and retreats. So it could be longer, but we have a certain time. So I want to be telling the audience that I want to thank you guys for being here. For those of you who don't know, on Friday and Sunday, I'm hosting an anxiety free masterclass in Spanish, and it's called Three Ways to Know That Anxiety is Destroying Your Life. It's going to be available for those who sign up but are not able to join. There's going to be a replay, and unfortunately, for those of you who don't speak Spanish, it's just in Spanish. I'm not doing this in English, but you can, in case you want to know about more anxiety in English, then write me a line. I put my contact details there, so I would be happy to talk
Mm.
about it. Um, and oh well, Alex is saying thank you both, very insightful. Thanks, Alex, for being
You're welcome. Thank you.
here. That's great. So, Darla, any last words to our audience before we say goodbye?
I'm really, well, a couple things. I'm reflecting on, the anxiety work that you do. And I just want to really honor and acknowledge if you're in a space of chronic anxiety or, anxiety attacks come on at certain times, it might feel like really scary to think about going on retreat where that might happen, right? Where you might feel paralyzed, you might feel nervous. So if you do your due diligence to screen the host, and then you also can bring this level of trust that the person that you screened can hold that, right? Like I've had someone whose father died while they were on retreat. I've had like the weirdest things happen in people's lives on retreat. I've had people get sick. I've had someone fall and hurt themselves. I've had, not often, right? But every time if something happens, it's like knowing that that is for you, it's there for you to help see something, right? So you were there when someone was bleeding, right? And it's like it was such a great way to help her see how she'd been in a pattern. And as the host, you never want someone bleeding on your retreat,
Yeah.
but it actually really served and supported her to see where she didn't like to ask for help and she needed to. And so whatever your emotion is underneath this concern for the future, someone like Stephanie can hold that, right? I mean, I've done 70 retreats. Like I feel really confident in holding space for whatever comes up. And so if you continue to feel like, oh, I can't because it might be vulnerable, right? I might become vulnerable. Maybe there's a gift in that vulnerability. So I'm just really, really present to what a gift it is, what you're doing, Stephanie.
Thank you. Thank you, Darla. Thank you for your support. Thank you for being here. It's been an honor to have you in my program. And thank you for all the insights you gave people and all your knowledge and information, because at the end sometimes we don't really know about retreats and how retreats really can transform our lives, and
Yeah.
being able to know this It opens up possibilities for people, especially if they're suffering from, if they're in a place where they don't know what to do.
Yeah. Yeah. When I get stuck, I'm like, okay, I need to sign up for something. Let me begin to look for, and it always shows up right on time. And
Mhm.
I get stuck, right? And I put myself somewhere with someone who can help me see what I can't see. And it's vulnerable. And it's an awesome, awesome way to do life.
It is. It is.
Yeah.
Yeah. It helps us see things completely different.
Yes.
So
Thank you.
thank you guys and hope to see you next week. And thanks, Darla, and see you
Yeah.
next time. Bye.